Hello, and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners at all stages of their running careers about their first time experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's running story starts at 5 years old on early morning runs with her mom and eventually winds through track, cross country moves, healing from an abusive relationship, and years of running beside her Doberman before everything came to a halt. Her body began breaking down in ways she couldn't explain, which led her into a long fight for answers and a life saving surgery for a rare adrenal tumor. From there, she pushed through towards her first marathon through one of the most chaotic buildups you'll ever hear, breaking both her legs in a run study, battling eye infections, GI issues, a biopsy scare, and missing 8 full weeks of training. Still, she showed up in Tucson with the mentality that she'd get it done no matter how it looked, and the race became the first day that she finally felt like herself again. Her story is full of resilience, full circle moments, and a reminder that sometimes your first marathon is less about the finish line and more about proving to yourself that you can keep starting over. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Please welcome Heather. Heather, thank you so much for coming on the show. Super excited to talk to you. You've had quite the journey in running, starting all the way back in middle school, and it's progressed all the way up until your first marathon, which you ran super recently, so it's all very fresh in your mind. But before we jump into everything, just thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I actually started running when I was about 5 years old with my mom. She used to run every morning. I kind of learned that she was pretty legendary actually through becoming an adult and actually listening to the stories that she told me as a kid that I maybe
Yeah.
didn't really pay attention to. But yeah, we would get up in the mornings before school, about 5 o'clock in the morning, and go for a run every day. And she kind of taught me everything that I know about running. And then I started doing track in elementary school, and middle school was when I kind of be able to become competitive with it. And I was able to go to provincials. I'm from Canada, so we don't have like state things or D1 running. So it was just track and field for us. And it was so great. That's kind of where I started in everything, but I didn't really consider myself a runner until recently, which is kind of funny, even though I spent
Yeah.
my entire life running.
Like when you start running when you're young, you it's not like an identity that you adopt. It's just like what you do. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I totally get that. And 5 is young. So your mom, shout out to mom. She got you going out there
Yeah.
quickly. But yeah, how did
Yeah.
your relationship kind of like change with running as you got older and you started to run in track? I assume you were some sort of like sprinter of some sort. So how did the relationship
Yes.
with running change over time?
So it's actually quite interesting. Like I feel like I stopped running when I was a teenager. I ended up getting endometriosis with my periods, and I didn't really understand what that meant. And I didn't understand the pain, so I couldn't really run through it at the time. So I kind of slowed down on running, and it was just something that I did with my mom in the mornings. And then eventually I moved across the country very young. I graduated high school half a year early, and I moved out west. The mountains were calling me, so I
Yeah,
came out
yeah.
here, and it just became something that I did every day. I got a dog. It was a Doberman, and he needed to run all the time. And so that was just something we did before work every day.
Yeah.
And like running 10K was probably our normal everyday thing. And it wasn't until, oh goodness, like 2022 when he died that I realized, I missed running. I still ran on my treadmill. I was still running every
Yeah.
day, but not in the same capacity. And I realized that I needed to find my love for running again. And my husband and I started training for a half marathon in our dog's honor.
That's
And
sweet.
that kind of started us getting us into racing. And I was really sick at the time. I had Cushing's disease, and I didn't really know what was going on. I had a tumor that was growing on my adrenal glands, and it was causing me to be quite ill. So when I would run, my heart rate would spike above, 220, 230,
Oh my
and,
gosh,
I would
yeah.
get all tingly, felt like I was going to pass out. I gained an immense amount of weight in no time, and it wasn't leaving. And, nothing had changed in my lifestyle and my diet to encourage that type of behavior to happen. And I had been a fitness instructor and yoga teacher for a long time, and it didn't make sense to me. I hadn't changed anything at all.
Right, right.
And at that time, I couldn't run more than a half marathon. It was too much for my body, and I felt like I was either going to explode or pass out when that happened.
Right.
So running races at that time, like in 2022 and 2023, was just more of a dedication to my dog
Mhm.
and a struggle within myself, I guess. It wasn't really something that brought me an immense joy at the time, which is
Sure,
interesting.
sure. Yeah, that is, that is. So I guess, yeah, before your dog passed away, what was it about running that kept bringing you back? Like, you had this relationship with your dog, I would imagine was a big part of it, but like what else was bringing you back to running and bringing you, I guess, like peace in your life?
So I was in a very domestic violence situation as a young adult, and I think for me it meant finding myself again, and it meant finding safety. And it was the time where I could just be by myself and I could escape all of those feelings and I could just breathe and,
Yeah.
like realize that I needed to show up for me more and that I needed to love me more. And it meant starting over. And every time, you show up for a run, it is a new beginning. So I
Yeah.
think that gave me the courage and the strength to continue fighting for myself and to love myself more. Yeah, I would say it was a very different relationship at that time. It was more of an escape than anything else, than
Yeah.
something that I realized was helping me deeper.
Totally. Yeah, it's so interesting how running, like, we can come to it in seasons in our life, and it can be it's a consistent thing, we're always running, but it's so funny how it can be, yeah, like that, depending on the season of life that you're in, it can be something completely different. So I guess, like, how did your relationship change? I assume, like, when were you, like, out of the domestic violence situation? Was that while you were still with your dog, or was
Yes.
your dog did your dog come after? Yeah.
Yes. So my dog was probably the reason why I left the situation or
Mm,
why I told myself I left the situation. I didn't
yeah.
want to expose him to those things. And I wanted, you know, as a person, you imagine your dog as your child, and you're like, I want my
Right.
dog to make good choices, and
Yes, yes, yes.
so I have to be an example. So I feel like I left, and it was one of those things where running turned into our survival together, where we
Yeah.
grew into strength and so much more than what I was before. I wasn't escaping anymore. I was, running to find myself and running to help my dog because he needed exercise.
Yeah.
Um, and it also showed me that, like the relationship that I had with him, I needed to develop a relationship like that with myself.
Mm,
And, like I needed to want the best things for myself and not just him. And, it kind of changed the trajectory of my entire life. And I don't think I realized that until more recently, that running
mm,
was the reason that I was able to break free from all of these things because it does teach you to start again. And no matter where
yeah.
you are, whatever season you're at, like it's there for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ask anything from you but consistency. And that's the way that you need to love yourself as well, because you're not going to feel the same every single day.
Yeah.
So it was I think a huge life lesson in, the big circle of things of seeing how important running is really overall in the grand
Totally.
scheme of things. Yeah.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. It's so true. I think that you put it perfectly too. Like, it's consistent. It's, you show up for it, it shows up for you. And if you keep, like, putting good into it, you get good out of it. It's so,
Yeah.
it can be so impactful. So yeah. And then you moved into this new phase where you were looking into racing, but then you had this health side of things that I guess probably
Yeah.
felt like a lot of push and pull, where you're like, I can like finally run for a specific reason, but like I've got this thing going on. So I guess, how were you tackling that challenge of health on one end, but wanting to be involved in the racing side and like get into that side at the same time?
So it's really interesting. With Cushing's, it kind of makes you feel like you are in a fight or flight mode at all times. So your
Mm.
anxiety is extremely high. And I found that if I didn't move my body in a regular way in a regular basis, then I felt like I was going to explode inside of myself, whether it be
Mm.
mentally or physically. And I needed, I think, to show myself that I could still do these things no matter what, no matter how I felt. And if this was the way that I was supposed to feel at my age, I wasn't willing to accept that. During all of this, I went to school for nursing, and
Mm.
I kind of knew my body systems well enough to know that this is not the way I should feel at this age. So I just kept showing up, but in the background, I was going for tests all the time, blood work, CAT scans, and we found that I had a tumor on my adrenal glands probably
Mm.
about 11 years ago. And the doctors were not concerned about it. They told me it was fine. And progressively over time, my cortisol just kept getting higher and higher and higher and higher to the point where it was like 3 times the amount that it should be. And it
Wow.
was
Yeah.
starting to affect my other systems. You know, my heart rate was going out of control. I wasn't sleeping. So I would wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and go for a run on my treadmill because
Mm.
I didn't know what else to do to help myself. And
Right.
it was the only way, you know, even though my face was tingling and I felt like I, you know, might faint, it was the closest I felt to feeling like myself during all of that. You know, like I look in the mirror, I don't look like myself, I don't feel like myself. And then mentally, you know, without the sleep, like the sleep deprivation, it just makes you start to feel insane.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you're going to these doctors and they're not believing you. And they, you know, the numbers are all there, the data's there, but they don't understand it, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of led me, like, you know, I realized like the endurance and the determination that it takes to train for a run is kind of the same thing as it takes to go through the medical system with chronic illness. You just got to keep showing up and you just got to hope
Yeah.
for the best and hope that somebody eventually sees you, right? And
Yeah.
I think, you know, having my husband's support and having him running beside me and seeing me struggle and watch me struggle and it not just be in my own brain, I think that really helped push me forward, and having that support and understanding where I know that doesn't happen for a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It kind of came down to I actually, ironically, 1 year before my first marathon, applied for help with a specialist, an adrenal specialist in the US. And he saved my life.
Oh, great. That's
So
awesome.
I ended up having surgery in January. And yeah, that was a life-saving surgery. It completely changed the trajectory of my life and my running and my health and just my outlook, I guess, on everything.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And it just took one doctor, it sounds like, to really like understand
Yeah,
what was going on, which is just insane. That you probably saw so many people that,
I
just like threw it to
did.
the side, and then you needed that one person that was gonna believe in what you were saying. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so during this process, I lost my hair. Like I ended up losing my hair to the disease.
Mm.
And
Mm.
most of the doctors that I saw would just be like, oh, let me know if, you know, your hair falls out or if this happens and that happens. And I'd be like, well, I've told you all of those things are
Yeah, right.
happening. And I'm
Right.
like, didn't I? Did I not?
Did I forget that huge piece of
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I thought that's on my notes here, I promise.
Yeah, right, right.
Um, and it became this source of that became very soul sucking. And I found a group on Facebook, you know, typical typical thing to do when you're lost all hope.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people were talking about this amazing adrenal surgeon from Germany who had moved to the US. And he started an entire different process for looking at adrenal tumors. He had studied adrenal tumors most of his career.
Mm.
And he fronted a program at Harvard University, and then after this decided that there was a real need for it in North America. And he stayed and he opened his own clinic, thankfully. And everyone told me you could self-refer. You just had to get all of your medical documents to send along to him. So I
Mm-hmm.
applied November 15th last year, not really knowing, but it was the kind of like, this is my last hope. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
know what else to do. I'm at my wit's end. If this doesn't work, I don't know what to do. So
Right.
by December 2nd, I was on a surgical consult with him, and I had surgery January 20th. So we flew down to Florida and away we went.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And yeah, like he removed the tumor in my left adrenal gland, and everything started to come back to me very quickly. So I started to lose all of the excess weight that I had gained. My heart rate started to return back to normal. I was sleeping again. And I feel like my brain was working. I was able to carry a conversation more than a couple sentences without getting lost in what I
Oh
was
my
talking
gosh.
about.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
I mean, there's a whole lot to cover there, but yeah, it was insane, amazing that
Yes.
that happened. And only when I was reviewing all of my notes and everything for this did I realize that I applied to have him be my surgeon on the same day that I ran my first marathon.
Yeah, I was saying, like, I don't know if anybody believes in like the signs in the universe and things like connecting the dots for your first marathon or to any race, but it always seems like there's something that's like a sign for your first marathon. And maybe we're looking for it because we already have subconscious things that are pointing us to the marathon, but it's always like a little sign, and that it's insane that it lined up like that something so impactful ended up on the same day as when you ran your first marathon.
Yeah.
But when I guess through that whole experience, because that, like, I'm sure that was just a sigh of relief when everything started to click back into place and you started to feel more normal. So I guess how were you thinking about your life at that point? Like, that's such a broad question, but that was so life changing, I'm sure. So what were you getting excited about? What was going to be new for you? Like, yeah, what were you thinking?
Well, it's really interesting because while I had surgery and then afterwards, when they had gotten the pathology back and gave me a call, like they let me know that I had a very rare type of tumor that actually probably would have ended up killing me
Oh my gosh.
within who knows how long, but I was very close to being on that end of things.
Yeah.
And I think that totally just shook up everything. And, like you notice, like, just how beautiful everything is in life and how lucky you are to be here. And, I told myself when I wasn't well, if I just had 24 hours, like, what would I do with my life?
Mm.
And 24 hours of feeling good. And then, once I started to feel good, I was just like, I'm going to run. I'm going to run every day. I don't even care how long I run. It
Yeah.
just needs to be, I just need to run. And as soon as I could start running again, it was this new sense of freedom. I would describe it as what I imagine birds or animals that can fly feel like is, I get this chance every single day. I get to do these things when I maybe wouldn't have been given that opportunity. So it's a totally different mindset. And I feel like I've dropped so many mental restraints around running or things that I put myself in a box for of I need to be this, I need to be that. And it just kind of set my soul on fire. And I feel like I started training harder. I started running more. And, like by this summer, I ended up getting a first place in a 10K. And
That's
I never
awesome.
thought, yeah, I never thought that was achievable for me before. But
Yeah.
growing up a sprinter, I never saw myself as being an endurance runner. So it was like this switch clicked inside of me. And I realized, like, I've been training for endurance for the last 15 years of my life.
Right.
Why wouldn't I, sign up for a full marathon and do those things? And so it was kind of right around when my brain was deciding, okay, I think I'm ready for a full marathon, that Garmin came out with their inaugural series. And I actually had made their team, like their League of Garmin team, right after my first half marathon post surgery.
Yeah.
And they offered us all to go to the races. And I was just like, yes, this is my sign. Like, I have to do it. And, their first one in Toledo, we happened to have something else going on, a tattoo show or what have you. Also, my husband's a tattoo artist. We own a tattoo shop and we travel the world a lot.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Coincides with everything else on the side that we're doing. So he runs races with me amongst doing all of this amazing things. So we decided that Tucson would be the one that we were going to run. It would fit with our schedule. And, I have friends that live there. So it ended up working out really great. And I realized, I'm going to do a couple half marathons. That'll be a part of my training. And then in August, I broke both of my legs.
Stop. Oh my gosh.
Not running. Yes.
How? Like, how did we get there? We were so healthy. We were doing so good. Yeah.
We're doing so good. So with Cushing's, you end up having like almost like an osteoporosis type thing happen to your bones, but it starts to reverse once you get healthy. So I luckily hadn't broken anything up to this point. And I decided that, I wanted to be a part of this run study. So there was a run study at a local university happening, and they were studying like the biomechanics of running and fatigue and your muscles. And they wanted to kind of compare it to people with MS to kind of showcase how people with MS struggle much more with muscle fatigue than, say, a normal person or an endurance athlete. And so a part of the testing was muscle fatigue testing, and we had to put these cuffs around our legs and kick against them as hard as we possibly could. And unfortunately, that broke both of my legs.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. That was like in August. So I kind of had a lot, like August was a great month. I host an annual birthday run, a 5K. So I did that. One of my best friends flew up from Texas. I paced her in a half marathon. She got a PR. It was an amazing start into going into my first marathon. And then my first run study day, I fractured both of my legs and in very strange spots. So that's why we kind of lessened it down to being the cuffs that were around my legs, unfortunately. And so I didn't really even plan on getting my legs checked. I happened to go to my doctor's office for a completely different reason. And she asked why I was limping. I was like, oh, I was in this run study. We did this fatigue testing for my muscles. She asked if she could see one of my legs because it was only one that was bothering me. And I had this lump on my, above my ankle, about 5 centimeters up. And she's like, I want to get that ultrasounded. So we did. And it came back as bursitis. And it was in a very strange area. So she consulted with a sports physio doctor, and they said, we would like to see a bone scan because that's most likely a fracture.
Oh.
And I was like, it's not fractured. There's no way.
Right.
So I happened to get in very early for the bone scan. Luckily, the following day, somehow, I don't know what happened, but I got in. And they kept asking me if I was having pain in my left leg. No, not at all. And so then I got the report back later that afternoon, and my doctor calls me and she says, we've got a fracture in both of your legs.
Oh my gosh.
Both of my legs?
Right.
And I was like, I don't feel anything. It feels fine. I can walk. Yeah. And so I was in a boot. She put me in a boot on my right leg for 6 weeks. I could start physio around 4 weeks if it felt good. So I started doing some physio week 4. Week 5, it was still, physio once a week and boot all the time. Week 6 was half days in the boot and half days out. And then we kind of just progressed from there. And It was insane. I feel like the journey to my marathon was a marathon.
Oh
And then
yeah.
just as we were coming out of that, I had to go for a mammogram and breast ultrasound, and they
Uh-huh.
wanted to do a biopsy. They found a lesion that
Oh
was
my
abnormal.
gosh, you couldn't catch a break.
And I was like, I need to start running again. My marathon is soon. This is the end of October by this
Oh
time.
my gosh.
And so they're like, we'll have you back up and running in a week. And I was like, okay, good to go.
Yeah.
So, amongst all of this, I probably should have started with this in February. We were away on a tattoo trip, and my eye blew up, and I got periorbital cellulitis.
Oh my
I
gosh.
I could send you photos. It was
Yeah.
not a great look,
Sure.
or
Is it what is
a
that?
great thing.
Yeah, yeah. What does that
So
feel like?
basically, it is the most painful thing ever. And it was just around my entire eye socket. And it was giant and
Mm.
swollen. You know, I had a fever and nothing was helping. So I ended up going to the hospital in Atlanta where we were, and they gave me the diagnosis of dry eye, which was kind of convenient because I was able to then make it back to Canada to an emergency, and we can do at home IV here. So I was hooked
Oh,
up
okay.
to IV for a couple weeks and oral antibiotics, and all was okay. Um, until right after my biopsy, my eye swelled up again.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, no. But a part of me was like, if I'm on antibiotics, that means I'm going to be fine for my marathon. So I should be okay, theoretically. So 10 days of, antibiotics goes by.
Yeah.
I'm back into jogging. I'm, back into it, but my eye is not getting better. So I have to
No.
go see an eye specialist. And by now it's November,
Right.
and I am getting a bit nervous. So they're like, we're going to do an eye surgery on you in December when you get back, and we'll send it all off for pathology. So then we know if it comes back as something, we know how to treat it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's go for it. After that appointment, my eye started swelling again, even worse. So I had to
Oh.
go back. They
Oh
ended
my
up
gosh.
doing my eye surgery like the day after this.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so it was November 4th, I had my eye surgery, and we were leaving on the 13th. And the doctor was like, yeah, you'll be fine. It's fine. You'll be fine.
I'd be like, you
So
promise? Nothing else, right?
I was like, can I take like antibiotics or anything
Right.
just to kind of get me through till we get to the US, so that when I am off of them, I know I've got a little while to maybe
Right.
be okay. Oh yeah, no problem. So she gave me more antibiotics. So that caused its own issues on the way to the marathon. I ended up getting like GI distress on the
Jeez.
flight on the way there. And I was like,
Jeez.
you know what? I picked the hardest marathon at, really high elevation in the desert. And I'm coming from Canada in the winter. I really set myself up for the hardest first marathon, I think,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
everything else is easier here on out. Like,
Sure.
it's going to be a breeze.
I think you're taking the medal for most unconventional training block getting to your first marathon. That is insane.
Yeah. I missed
What?
8 weeks of training.
That's
I
crazy. That's
don't
what I was gonna
recommend it.
ask. Yeah. I was very similar. Gosh, similar in like I took 8 weeks off. Not similar in like I went through nearly close to what you went through, but like was injured and wasn't able to train for 8 weeks, and just like not being able to train for that amount of time impacted my
Yeah.
whole race. So I can't even imagine having 8 weeks off and have all of these things on top of it. I guess like my question is, I have two questions. I have a million
Yes.
questions. I have two main ones. The first one is, did you think about dropping out of the race at any point, or were you like, I'm going to do this no matter what?
The funny part was I was like, I can run in a boot, right? Like I can run the marathon in a boot if I need to. I can just
Yeah.
strap up and go. It was kind of like my mentality, which
Right.
is terrible. And I would not recommend that to anyone.
Right.
But I think you get in that mindset of I've been through so much. This is not going to set me back. If I have to walk, I'm going to walk. And I think
Yeah.
because I went in with that mentality for my first half marathon in May, 5 months after my surgery, I really thought I was going to be running that race, or sorry, walking that race
Yeah.
and being able to run it. And I ended up with a sub 2 hour time, which wasn't something I expected. And seeing for the first time that my body was coming back to me with running, I was starting to feel like myself again. Um, I think that feeling carried me through this next part. I think if I didn't experience that, I may have been like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I should do this or what have you. But, I had a really great team of like my doctors, my orthopedic surgeon, like they were all
Hmm.
on board, on the same page with me. And I think that's what mattered. And then having a physio that dealt with people who, are athletes versus just someone who went from the couch breaking their leg to someone who is running, 50 kilometers in a week
Yeah.
to nothing. So it was really nice. And they were able to get me back on my feet faster. I will say, like, I think you said like you went through an injury too. And I've,
Hmm. Hmm.
I've been following your story. That first run where you feel normal again, that was the marathon for me.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and it was only to a certain point, like with
Sure.
that 8 weeks missing of training, once I got to, mile 22, I was like, oh, my knees do not like this.
Hmm.
And, I had to take walk breaks and I had to, tell myself that that was okay, which I think that comes from, my younger years in training and in track. Like we don't walk, we run, and there was
Hmm.
no walk breaks. And so having to do that, I think just showed me, you know what, you can still do this and you're only going to be able to improve from here. That really set something aside for me. Like, I don't know. I wanted that feeling again. And I think that's why, like my doctor asked, like, I had to drop out of a few races in the fall, which
Mm.
that was hard, but ultimately my goal was to make it to the full marathon, right?
Yeah.
So I think having to take, the sideline and having, to do those things also brought a different type of mentality for me. I got to be there cheering for people. I got to watch people cross the finish line in all different states of mind. Watching people and being a stranger on the sideline and being like a beacon of hope for those people who don't know you or the people who do, that really did something to me. And, I realized that even if I'm not running a race or even if I am, I really want to start cheering for people more because it
Yeah.
does so much for the community and it makes you feel like you're doing something even when you're not. Like when you can't
Yes.
run or you can't participate in it, there's not, there's no animosity in your heart. Like you
Right.
want to cheer for these people and you want to see them do so well. And, I think that kind of like changed the tone for me is just knowing that no matter what, even if I couldn't run that marathon, I was still going to show up. I was still going to go because my husband was
Yeah.
running. So I would
Yeah.
still get to be there in a race capacity. It may not look like what I wanted it to. And that came with a lot of, having to be honest with myself about what I was feeling, what the pain felt like afterwards, no blowing through things. There was a couple weeks of setback where you have to restart from the beginning if you started to feel pain. So it felt like,
Yeah.
through that I may not get there. And there were probably a few days, a handful of days, my husband might say more,
Yeah.
where I was like, I'm not going to make it. Like, I'm not going to be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
do it. And, like he just kept reminding me, like, you've been through so much this year. There's nothing that you haven't been able to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then my biggest fear became when I was in GI distress, what happens when I'm running the marathon? Do I run at a time? Like, because there was a
Yeah.
time limit on course. So
Sure,
I was
sure.
very concerned. And I realized that, you know, most people who run marathons, maybe not everyone, but most people are taking bathroom breaks,
Yeah,
whether they
absolutely.
need to go to the, and I think I had so much of my mindset was like, I can't stop. I got to keep going. And it was then when that happened, so much stress released from the marathon.
Yeah.
And, you know, I let go of my time goals when I broke my legs. Like that was
Yeah.
just instantly
Yeah.
like, nope, we're not going to accomplish this. We're
Right.
just going to look at finishing.
Right.
And then it was like, now I just need to finish before 6.5 hours. Like that was
Yeah.
my mindset. And, I am happy with how I finished, and it gives me a point of growth, like I
Yeah.
can only get better from here, realistically,
Yeah.
unless I
Absolutely.
break both my legs again.
Fingers crossed. We're knocking on some serious
Yeah.
wood here. Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
doing that.
honestly.
Oh my
Never
gosh,
again.
yeah.
Don't
Never
recommend.
again. Yeah, got it out
No.
of the way. No, that yeah, I think you're so right. And I've said it like a million times in the show, but your first marathon's your PR no matter what. So whether you're
Yeah.
sidelined because you have to, like your school shift because you have to, or you're just going in with no time goal and just looking to finish, like it's only up from there. You get the first one out of the way, and then you can start to tackle some of the harder goals, and once you
Yeah.
have that baseline. But yeah, your first ones, have some fun. Do what you can with it.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Exactly.
let's talk about the race. I'm excited to break it down and hear how
Yeah.
it went. So you were traveling in. You said that you got there a couple of days before the race. You said
Yeah. Race was
okay.
on the 15th. So I generally set up like a day if I have to travel, because I normally do get motion sick flying on a plane. But
Mm-hmm.
that'll usually only last like while I'm on the plane, then I'm off and I'm feeling fine. So I kind of set myself up with that extra day. And thankfully we did, because all of the flights were in chaos when we were flying into the US. So there were
That's
flight
right.
cancellations every day. So
That's
that
right.
was maybe where my focus was, where, I could have been stressed about all of these other things, but it was mainly just getting there on time. And
Mm-hmm.
flights to Tucson from where we are in Canada are not very frequent. So if we missed that one flight, we would have probably had to wait to the next day. And I was like, oh, this is kind of nerve wracking.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we give ourselves that buffer window. Um, and so we were able to get there. I honestly slept for 12 hours when we got in, and that probably saved me. Um, Sleeping and just like hydrating the next day. I didn't really get to carb load the way I would have liked to.
Mm-hmm.
It was just trying to keep food down, trying to stay hydrated. I was drinking like nun tabs, almost like, I
Yeah.
probably exceeded the limit. But I was drinking one pretty frequently, and it was very like it was hot. Like the weather was 80 degrees when we got
Oh my
there,
gosh.
and
Ugh.
I mean we came from like, I don't know, 20.
Yeah.
So it was snowing when we left. So
Oh my
I was
gosh.
just not climatized for it yet at all.
Right.
So the next morning we decided we were going to walk to the race expo. It was very close to our hotel. So we walked and just kind of got my bearings and my feet on the ground a bit. And yeah, I started to settle once I got to the race expo, and it was early in the day. So it was really nice. We got to chat with a lot of the people.
Nice.
Um, my husband bought me a new watch because he figured that would probably help my stomach, and it did.
Yeah. That was very nice of him. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right. Um, so that was lovely. Got to chat with like a lot of the people on the team and meet people I had never met before, and it was a really, really cool experience. It was a smaller experience, so I feel like we really got that one-on-one time. And one of the guys who works for Garmin has my husband convinced he's going to start running ultras now. So that's really cool.
There we go. That's very cool. And your husband was running the full with you, right? For this one? It was like the whole race was full? Cool.
Yeah. I kind of took off at one point. I kept going ahead of him. He doesn't get as much training time. He, works full time as a tattoo artist, and I have the luxury of just running the shop basically from home. I do the business end of things. So I'm able to train a lot more than he is. But so at one point he just told me, keep going. I need you to keep
you
going.
Got this.
Yeah.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah. And my biggest concern going into the race was dehydration. I was so worried about becoming dehydrated with it being so hot and me having been dehydrated the day before, basically coming into this. And I was more nervous about not running with him because of that. And so once I got to about 30 kilometers, I was like, it's go time. I'm good. I got this. Nothing bad is going to happen here on out.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess if we're like breaking down the race in a few chunks, so that the first 30 kilometers, pretty good. Like, how did you feel for the first 30?
Great. So I had never actually run longer than a half marathon before in my training because I lost that 8 weeks of training. So I was more or less like, once I hit that half marathon mark, this is where the race starts for me. This is where it is beginning. And I kept trying to tell myself, I generally break down my runs in like 10-kilometer increments. So it's like a marathon is 4 pieces of pie and a little bit. I call them pieces of pie. I don't know why, but it makes it feel better.
It. I like it. Everybody likes pie.
Yeah, right? Like, and who doesn't like running pie? So
exactly.
It just feels good, 4 pieces and a couple bites. Like, that's a marathon. And that seems so much more doable than 42.2 kilometers, right? And so once I hit that half marathon mark, I was like, it's on. Like, this is where the race actually begins. And it's every single step that I take is a new distance for me. So I don't know what's going to happen. And I just need to show up for whatever that is. And it wasn't until I hit about kilometer 35, things started to get not awesome. My headphones died. So I was like, I guess this is also a part of training my headphones to know how long they last. So I unfortunately was not running with shocks at the time. And I had met the team there and I, love everything that they're doing. And I was just like, afterwards talking to them and they explained, had I been wearing shocks, I probably wouldn't have had that issue. That time is the time that you need your music in the marathon, is at the end. I was starting to definitely listen to my body more when it was showing up and telling me it was sore. So that is when I started taking more walk breaks, was probably around 35 kilometers. Before then, I had just run straight through. And it started to become a battle and it got harder and harder. And I honestly, like, once you get to a certain point in a marathon, everybody gets so spread out and dispersed. I just had to turn on my phone. I just had to turn on the music on full blast and just run with it going.
There's no shame at that point in the marathon. It's like, you do what you gotta do.
Exactly. And it was just like, there were so many cool things to take in. Like, I had never been to the desert before. I didn't know that cactus grew on the side of mountains. And like, we have trees on our mountains. Like, I've never seen this before. And they're huge. I didn't know that they were that big. And like, there's not much that's around them because they suck up all the water, and there's not like, all of these things I didn't know. And so my brain is also being flooded with all of this like geographical information as I'm running too. And it was just, that started to help, like starting to focus on like these cactuses are growing in the desert and there's no water around. Like, you're going to finish this marathon. So it became like a game you start to play with yourself when, you don't have the same stimulus happening.
Yeah.
You start to convince yourself of things like you're a horse or whatever you need to get through, right?
Right. Were there any I always love like mantras. Was there anything you were saying to yourself to keep yourself moving forward, or anything that was coming up from training that like kept sneaking its way into your brain, like anything internal that was happening?
I just kept telling myself that the pain that I was feeling, like I knew this pain was under training. It was
Yeah.
not pain from my injury. So
Mm.
we can keep going. We can keep running. Like, we got this. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
But I also, like, I had little words project bracelets on my wrist, and I have one for my dog, and it's right
Mm.
beside, I do have him tattooed on my body, so I do get to like see him as I look down and I'm running. But
Yeah.
I had that visual reminder, like his name just like popping up in my face, and having that was so important, I think, because I kept reminding myself that like I signed up for this for him. There's a reason
Yeah.
why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
yeah, and it kept coming back, and I got to see it. And I had different words all over me, like strength, and one from London, and just all these different memories for me that were meaningful, like knowing that my friends and family from London are with me, and I've got strength and I've got courage, and the kilometer distance on my wrist, and
Yeah.
just different things from my friends and stuff, and just those reminders, because I can't really wear like my race tats because I'm not going to see them.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's sweet. It's like, yeah, anything that you can connect with in those moments to keep yourself moving forward. It's anything is
Yeah.
impactful. So that's great. And
Yeah.
then when you saw the finish line, what was the feeling like when you saw the finish line for the first time?
So that was really cool. Like, you came around a corner and you just had this big long strip of like people. And the one thing that was really special was that I had friends of mine that lived in Tucson, and a couple
Mm.
friends who lived just outside traveled in for the marathon, and they chased me around that course all day. They had oil when I needed it. They had things to rub my body with, water, like whatever I needed. And that, seeing them again, like knowing it was the last time and that we had all kind of gone through this together, um, everything that I had worked for was here. But I also, interestingly enough, I was like, am I supposed to feel more emotional? Like, not that I
I know what you
didn't.
mean. Yes.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, like it just kind of felt like another long run. Like, not
Yes.
to say it wasn't like legendary and it wasn't a
Right.
memory that I'm going to keep forever. But after I crossed that line and I got close, like I maybe was so overcome with emotion. I'm not sure, but it wasn't like this. I didn't have this urge to cry. I just was like, yeah, I did that. Like, give me my
Yeah.
medal. Like, I don't know. It was a
Let's
very
get out of here. Yeah.
strange. Yeah. Like, I was like, I need some water. Like, it was
Yeah.
more, I don't know. It was a very strange feeling. Like, I feel like it was very much a beginning feeling for me. Like, I knew
Yeah.
and know that I'm going to continue doing this and that it can only get better.
Yeah.
Um, it was a very interesting feeling, and it wasn't, and I don't know, like there was also this very cool feeling of you're running down the carpet like by yourself. People are cheering for you. Like, that alone is a very exciting thing. And that moment is something that I think I really try not to film myself. Like, I know a lot of people really love to film like
Yeah.
themselves crossing the finish line. I really try not to do that. And I try to have that moment purely for myself. But
Yeah.
in hindsight, sometimes I wish I did record it, because it's like I want to know what that look on my face is. I want to see and reflect on that feeling, because the photos don't do you justice as much. But thankfully, like I do have some videos from crossing and the reaction, because you forget it. Like your brain is in such a fog afterwards that you're like, what did I even do? Like, who did I talk to? Like,
right.
But it was good. Like that crossing the finish line, like it felt like a start for me. Like, this is where we get to begin again. And like in a different way.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'll two things. I think I can relate to that a lot from my first marathon. I think it's partly exhaustion, but it's partly just like I think and tell me if this wasn't the case for you, but I remember for me, it was like I built it up so much in my head, that finish line moment, like the first marathon finish line moment. It's going to be everything I hoped it to be. I'm going to cry. It's going to be, and I think I worked it up so much in my head that when it was happening, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Oh wait, I just crossed. Like, whoops, like, that's where the moment went. And then it didn't hit me until a couple hours later where I was like, holy shit, like I just did that. So I think it's partially like your little brain dead, and partially like you build it up so much that once you cross, you're like, oh wow, like that was it. I just did that.
That's it. Yeah. That's exactly it. Like you do. And I think also, like, not anything negative against social media. I love social media. But it's like you get to see these stories of these people doing their marathons, and they cry and they have all these emotions, and you were like, okay, I'm probably supposed to do that. And then when it doesn't happen, you're like, oh no. And then,
did I do something wrong?
Yeah. And then, I'm in the airport the next morning on the flight home, like, I did that.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
it hits you later.
Like, it hits you much later, and you realize, like, I'm actually very capable of doing anything I set my mind to. So it's very cool. I would recommend anyone running a marathon or a race of any kind. And, like through this whole process, something very cool happened. I kind of touched on my mom a little bit. So in Canada, women weren't really allowed to run marathon distances or run races longer than, I think it was 100 meters or a mile, in the 70s until 1975.
Yeah.
And so my mom was in high school at that point. So it was like a pivotal time for women in sports. And she actually got first place in the mile. I think she was in 73. And which I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, I had no idea, amazing. And she ran track, and, she was playing basketball, and she ended up being very monumental in field hockey. And after she was done high school, she was asked to play on the very first summer games for Canada. And she didn't get to go, but she did train them. She went away to school afterwards, so she didn't get to make that mark. But I realized, like, growing up, when we would run, she would talk about wanting to run a marathon. She used to talk about wanting to run Boston. Like, we spent our summers going to Foxborough. Like, I grew up on the East Coast of Canada, so we would drive down to Boston every year. Like, I watched the Big Dig happen throughout my life. Like, so Boston was always like a big, like, thing. And I remember, like, during marathon training, I was talking to her, and I asked her, I said, was Boston a dream of yours, or is that something I dreamed in my head, like imagined, because sometimes you never know. Like, we get these downloads of information from, like, our childhood, which is like, is this a dream or is it real? So sometimes I, have to verify that information. And I asked her, I said, did you used to talk about running Boston? And she said, yes. And she's like, that was my goal. I wanted to run Boston for my 40th birthday. And I was like, well, that's like, why don't you still run Boston? And we got talking about it, and I told her, like, you can run it virtually. And so she decided that she's going to run Boston virtually, and I'm going to try to qualify for Boston for my 40th. So it would be her 70th and my 40th. And so she asked me if I wanted to train her. So I'm like, this is such a full circle moment. Like, the woman who taught me how to run, who taught me about showing up for yourself in a sport capacity, is asking me to teach her to run. So that made the decision for me that I'm actually going to take like a running coaching course, because I want to teach her properly and
Awesome.
effectively. And where, you know, she's 67 now, and it's like I really want her to get the most out of this, and it's been the cutest thing. And I think that was a huge height of inspiration going into my marathon, like probably a week before we had made this decision and talked about it. And
Yeah.
she's so excited. She, you know, messages me every day and tells me like her updates, like what she's done, what part of the workouts she's completed, how she's feeling afterwards. And it just lights me up inside. And I know you totally understand this
Yeah,
feeling
I
because
definitely
you
do.
got to run with your mom.
Yes. So
And
special.
we're across the country from each other, so it's like we get to check in about these things. And you know, she runs my annual birthday race every year, but this will be much longer and much different. So
Yes.
I'm really excited for her, and
That's
I think
so
it
fun.
just makes it just that monumental experience. So yeah, I feel like
I love
that,
that.
not that I didn't have fuel like to keep going and to keep running, but now I feel like I have a goal and a purpose, and I'm not hard pressed on like I have to do this by this time. Like I would just like to do it by this time, right?
Yeah.
And I know having those stringent guidelines on myself will not be beneficial. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Oh,
got
that's so
time.
exciting. You've got lots of time. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's so fun. I'm so excited for you guys. So is she gonna run it virtually in her like where she's at, and then you're gonna
Yeah.
like run Boston in person? Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
fun.
So
Very
then
excited for
we'll
you
run
guys.
it simultaneously. So my
Yes.
sister may end up running it with my mom, just like
Okay.
for, I mean, probably the run, but also like the technical aspect of it too, like
Sure.
making sure that she's all tracked and good to go.
Yeah.
So that she gets her medal still, because when she
Yes.
found out that you still get a medal to do it, it was kind of, I guess, what piqued the conversation was when New York was happening. I was running New York virtually on my Peloton, and
Mm.
she was like, "Do they have a course for Boston?" And I was
Oh,
like,
I
"They
see.
don't." But I was like, let's look into the virtual race, and then we
Yeah.
can find you one on YouTube that you can follow while you're doing it. So
Yeah.
it'll be great. So I think that's something that has really like inspired me again and like lit an extra like fuel to my fire, because I
Love it.
love learning. And I know you've got your coaching too, so you
Yeah.
understand like it's just going to help me develop more as an actual runner too. And
Totally.
I've got two friends, my two best friends, signed up for their first 10K.
Let's go.
Right? So
I
I'm
love
just like,
it.
let's race.
Yeah, let's all do it together. I know it's so fun when the people around you, and whether you're asking them to do it with you or not, like it's a natural. The
Yeah.
people around you just start to see what you're doing and gravitate towards it. So that's awesome. I love that. That's gonna be so much fun and such a special experience for you and your mom to just be able to like experience it together. And to
Yeah.
like reach these long term goals that she's had and let you be a part of it. I can't wait. That's gonna be so fun.
What would you say, like, did you get to train with your mom in person? Like, do you live in the same state or?
We're actually across the country from each other as well. So in the US. So I'm in North Carolina, she's in Oregon. So we trained across the country, and it was like not that we didn't have things like to relate to or talk about before, but like we had so much more to talk about and like check in about. And like yeah, like you were saying, she was updating me on how things were going. And when we were getting closer, like I was able to help her navigate a few things since I've ran a couple, and like be like, you know, your first marathon, everything's scary. So be able to talk her off the ledge on a few things, it's just like, yeah, the whole experience was so fun. And then right, like planning for the race and coming up with your strategy, even though you guys are separate, I'm sure you can still kind of like coordinate a few of those things. But no, it's going to be incredible. And you guys are going to like bond on a whole new level that you didn't even think was possible, because I would imagine that this is the most in common that you, if it's anything like our experience, this is probably the most in common that you'll have with each other at like any one moment in your life. So it's it's going to be huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think too, like, I moved across the country when I was 17 years old. So
Yeah.
it's been like 20 years of me not being in the same place as her, and us just
Right.
having a relationship based around what's going on in our lives, not
Yeah.
what we're doing together. And I, like you said, like when you have so many different things to check in on, like there's just a different excitement around it, and it
Yes.
fuels something so much different inside of you. And like, I don't know, I loved your matching outfits, like all of it. Like it was just so cute. And it just, I don't know, it just makes me so happy that like it's not like my mom was an amazing mom, but I feel like it's healing parts of me that I didn't know I needed to heal.
Yes.
And it's, I don't know, it's next level. And I have goosebumps, like just thinking about it and
Yeah.
talking about it, because it just feels so special. And, you know, something that started so long ago, and now it feels like it's here, you know,
Here.
like we started this journey 30 some years ago, and now here we are with a
Here we are.
goal in mind. Like we're revisiting her goal that was her life goal. And, you know, I just really want her to achieve that. I feel like there's so many things that our parents put on hold to be parents. And
Yeah.
we don't realize that until we're adults, like how much they've done for us until we are doing those things for ourselves. And
Right.
it's amazing, you know, to kind of come full circle and realize like I get to give back to the woman that gave me all of this. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
my
awesome.
feet on the
Oh,
ground, like, oh,
I can't wait.
so cool.
I have chills thinking about it. Yeah, I can't wait. You'll have to keep us posted. Tell mom she's welcome to apply for the show. I would love to talk to her
Yeah.
after she runs her
Oh,
virtual and do a little part two. But no, I'm
that would
so
be
excited for you
so
guys.
cute.
Yes, yes. If
Yeah,
she's
me
down,
too.
I'm down.
I'll try to
But
convince
yes,
her.
yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, I always love to ask for a piece of advice, and you have had, like we said in the beginning, one of the most unconventional training blocks as anyone. That's like you had to push through so much to get to the start line, let alone the finish line. So I guess if you could like wrap up your journey into a piece of advice for somebody who's also thinking about running their first marathon, what would that advice be?
I would probably have to say your mind is your biggest limitation. Just consistency and showing up. Like you can do anything. And honestly, as long as you move your body, like you're going to keep going. Um, but honestly, like just your mind is going to be your biggest limitation in your first marathon block. And once you realize you can achieve it, and once you see and prove to yourself you can do it, like the sky's the limit. You can make any goal for yourself that you want. So
Yeah,
I think something like that.
yeah. Moral of the story is just do it. Like take that first step.
Yeah, just do
Everything falls
it.
into place. Yeah,
It
love
will.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Awesome.
if you believe it at one point in your life, you can achieve it. So,
Absolutely.
you know, your mind's going to play games on you. And the funny thing is like I always say, like, your mind can be the biggest hater in your life. And
Yeah,
it can be the biggest deterrent from you showing up for the things that you actually need to do. So I think we have to play those mind games with ourselves and just show up, see what happens.
yeah. See what
Yeah.
happens. Love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, to wrap us up here, I always like to ask our fun questions at the end. So we're going to talk a little bit about fuel and shoes from your marathon block. I always give the disclaimer that fuel and shoes are your own journey. So if
Yes.
try everything and anything with fuel, try out your local running store, get your feet measured with shoes, and do what's best for you. But for you, what have you liked for fuel through this first training block, or like any of your half marathons?
So I am a Huma gel gal through and through.
Yeah.
But I like goo for the end of a marathon.
Mm.
So I find like they have a different kind of gel. It has like a little bit more like sodium and potassium and things in it. I like to take that around the end point because that's going to give me that extra oomph to go.
Yeah.
I had never taken salt pills or tried salt pills until the day of my marathon. So I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but I had a plan and I had it written on my gels and taped on there so that no matter what happened mentally, I would still be able to do it. Um, for me, I'm a strong believer in I only drink water with my gels. I don't drink electrolytes at the same time. I find
Mm-hmm.
that can maybe be an issue for GI upset, but I have a
Mm-hmm.
sensitive stomach, so that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Cliff Blocks as well, like the
The
mountain berry,
chews.
like
Yeah.
yeah, at the very beginning. So I like those before I get going. So I'll eat maybe like 3 or 4 before the race. And then when I'm not wanting to chew anymore, that's when I'm taking the gels once I start getting into it. Um, I probably took more gels with me than I needed just because of the heat and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't end up taking my last one, but it was good. I also really like the brand Vaffles,
I haven't heard of them.
VAFVLS.
Yeah.
Um, they have a gluten-free, like vegan, like stroopwafel, and I was training with those before my run because I was very worried about what I was going to eat the morning before traveling. I normally have a waffle, like a plain waffle before my
Mm-hmm.
runs
Mm-hmm.
and or oatmeal. Neither one of those things I could really guarantee to have. Like, yes, I may have a microwave or but I'm not going to have a toaster. So I
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
figure out a way to fuel properly before I got there. So I was using this waffle, Stroop waffle, and honestly, like they are amazing. Like there's just enough substance in it, like sugar and carbs to get you going for the day. So that and a banana is usually my pre-race fuel.
Yeah.
I try to eat about 2 hours before, no sooner, closer to the race than 2 hours, because I really like to give time for my stomach to adjust.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'll take like those, like the Cliff gooey jelly things, probably like 15, 20 minutes before, have a sip of water and off we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I also am somebody who's I really like emotional playlist for my marathons. So
Uh-huh.
I have like a playlist that kind of like builds up from like, yeah, you started here, you can do it, to like very
Yeah.
emotional, like we're gonna keep going, like there's nothing holding us back. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it builds a story in my brain at least, so it
Yeah.
works well. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I
Love it.
know that once
I,
I'm at a certain song, I need to be eating, but I also put a
oh, I
timer on my
see.
watch. Yeah.
I see. That's actually really smart. I like that. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And then what about shoes?
Shoes, I am an on gal. So
Love it.
I my very first pair of like track spikes were Nike. I ran in Nike for all of my adolescence, I think. And honestly, I think that was probably one of the only running shoes at the time. Then I actually started running with Merrill, because I was doing a lot of trail running with my dog and a lot of hikes and stuff like that. So most of my 20s I ran in like Merrill shoes. And then when we got on in Canada, I went to the store, like did the assessment, the whole gait assessment and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it was more in my brain, I was really like, oh, I really want to try Hoka's. Like I really hope that like I can fit into them. And they didn't fit me
Yeah.
properly. And I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
and I put on a pair of Ons and I got on the treadmill there, and I ended up buying 2 pairs because I wanted one for my treadmill, one for my outdoor runs. And I have done that ever since 2022. I am obsessed with On, and I rotate through I think 6 pairs of them that I have
Nice.
now, which
Nice.
is maybe an addiction, but
But when you like
it's a
something, you like it.
right? And it's like when they come out with something new that has innovative technology, I feel like I really want to try it. Like
Hmm.
I have, run in so many different variations of shoes over the years to now we have these super shoes. The science behind them is insane.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there's a part of it that makes me feel like I'm putting on a track spike again when I put on a race day shoe that has a
Hmm.
carbon plate or the ons or a speed board. And it does something to me mentally. Like I feel like I need to show up for the shoe. And
Yeah.
I love that feeling. And yeah, I'm an on girl through and through.
Love it.
I love them.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard really good things. I haven't tried them myself, but I got to get a shoe demo or something so I can go give them a go.
Yeah, you
really
definitely
awesome
should. I mean, even if you just went to like you were saying earlier, your local like running store, they probably have a few pairs that you could try on.
Yeah.
I find they're a little bit more stiff than say your average super shoe. To me, like they still feel like you're running on clouds. Like I guess that's why they've named it appropriately. But I guess like in comparison to other shoes, like I would say like I tried on Hoka's and they were very soft, but I worry about the impact of my joints, I guess, longevity wise. Like I don't wear carbon plated shoes on every single run. Like those are for race days only. I train in a normal shoe every other training run. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at too. Like people who are running need to be doing it safely with appropriate shoes for them, not what's popular. Kind of thing.
So important. Yeah, that's such a good call out. Yeah, do what's best for you. Trust the experts. Try a bunch of things. Like, you'll find one that fits you, and then you can stick. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much again for walking through your story and for coming on the show. So awesome getting to know you, getting to know your journey, and I'm so excited. I hope you document some of your journey with your mom, like leading up, because I'd love to see it. And if anybody wants to follow along with you, where can they find you?
I go by Hip Bean on Instagram. So HIP_bean, BEAN on Instagram.
Amazing. Cool. I'll link it in the show notes so people can find you as well. But thank you again. It was awesome getting to talk to you a little bit.
Thank you for having me. Like I appreciate it so much, and I didn't realize I had so much to say.
It makes my job easy. So no, you did great. This was awesome.
Thanks again. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok. That's at myfirstmarathonpod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at tay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.